All right, so thank you for joining me, everybody, for another Apazones training day. Today we're going to be talking about context and understanding where we are in market context, and just briefly hit on this topic and a couple of things that I like to look at as we look at the bars to understand where we are. So um, first off, I would like to talk about like kind of more general thoughts, general perspective of market context in a broader sense. Okay, and first off, I think I'm going to start off by drawing it here in our little paint program. Basically, what we want to do is look at how the market moves in general, all right? And then we're going to get into more of a specific type of thing here. So let's say that we have a leg down, okay? And price makes new lows, all that kind of good stuff, all right? What I expect to see then is a leg to the upside, okay? And this is going to be a general retracement. This is nothing new, it's just, very basic type of stuff. Then we usually see another leg down, okay? And we might see another little retracement here, and another leg down, okay? And usually it kind of happens in waves. So you'd have like leg one retracement, leg two retracement, and three. And sometimes you'll get a little bit of a something kind of crazy down here. Maybe it'll make one more little low and then it'll like reverse back up here, and then it pretty much starts all over again. Okay, so this is kind of just a general thought, of what happens. But I think it is important to understand how basically the past predicts the future. Okay, so as I was drawing out these things, a lot of these little retracements, or a lot of the little, a lot of the retracements that I would draw to, it's just kind of like an inversion of support and resistance. So a lot of times we can see different areas flip-flopping back and forth, and this is just basic wave theory. Okay, now I'm going to take us through another type of scenario. Let's say that we have a down move, and we're going to kind of zoom in on one of these legs here. Okay, so we have the down move, right? And so now we're expecting the little retracement, as we've confirmed that, hey, it looks like price has broken a low, we've had a down move, and let's see where the retracement goes to. Okay, so your retracement comes up, right, and we're going to be zooming into this little retracement here, but then comes back down and it fails to break that low, all right? And we're like, wait a second, what just happened here? Like price is failing to break this low. Maybe this retest wasn't all that low, And then all of a sudden it goes ba-boom, and like makes this new high here, So we're still in this leg. It's just it didn't look like what we thought it was going to look like, all right? And it makes a new high. Maybe it's to another level of resistance over here that was created, especially in zone theory, as we understand zone theory really well, or most people here should understand, price coming back into the zone. So, and then it actually makes the original move that we're wanting it to move, or we're looking for. Okay, so like this kind of formation could be inside of this little retracement deal. Not to say that there is anything wrong with taking this short. I mean, it may have lined up with the zone, maybe not, and you're like, oh man, but it came up and I have decent risk reward before the low, but it didn't reload into the area that I thought it was going to. You know, maybe I saw an inversion over here, but it didn't quite happen. You know, so sometimes to wait is a really good thing, and that's why we have like the AppATime tools. Like maybe this happens during a non-time, you know, and this one happens during AppATime, and you're like, it just works. A lot of times, I've seen this a lot. Okay, it's obviously in trading, nothing works 100% of the time, but I do see this, and you know, realizing that we're in a downwards push, and that we should be looking short in these places. So let's say you do get stopped out once, you know, but when you take the second trade at the real level that you were waiting for, and that one works out like that, that's still a pretty cool feeling. But now you just have to make back what you lost on this one. So your thinking wasn't wrong. It just was maybe the wrong timing, you know, and yada, yada, yada. So, and welcome to trading. If this hasn't happened to you yet, welcome to trading. The other thing that I want to talk about is these are retracements. But let's just say that price moved down, and again, another general theory, and we have a downtrend, and then it pops back up, and it fails to make a new low, and it pops back up again, and then what's going to happen here? Oh, but it doesn't make a new low here, all right? And it gets stuck, basically. And this is like this little range area, you know, like we have a range on the top, we have a range on the bottom, and it just gets stuck in between the range. Now, when this happens, I usually expect for price to make a new low, but a lot of times maybe it'll pop up just a little bit higher and then goes boom, you know, and goes down from here. This, I think, is really, really interesting. I love playing the range like this. This happens quite a bit, or I think it happens quite a bit. And if we base our trading off of probabilities, this is going to happen about 70% of the time. The range is going to, the chop is going to be happening 70% of the time. And the true trend, you know, these big legs that we're talking a little bit about before, they're going to happen only like 30% of the time, you know. So I kind of feel that you have to play the chop a lot of times to get the big trend move, you know, or to be on board. Yes, it is possible that maybe, you know, as prices coming down out of this area of consolidation, maybe it drops down, knocks some people out, and then comes back and drops down again. You know, that is definitely possible, and I've seen that happen several times too. But I want to be just more interested in understanding the consolidation of things. Okay, so just a little bit about the theories that we're going to be talking about today, and now we're going to move into the real markets. And I'm just going to look at YM just because it's one of the markets that I like to watch. Looking at the setup coming into pre-market hours, we had the AppATrender that was pointed down. It was red. We've obviously been in the downtrend since the trender is red, and it looks like price is pretty far from it. So if price is pretty far from the trender, you know, we're looking at price to usually come back to the trender. You know, it can't stay forever, you know, away from the trender. It's got to retest it at some point. So the question is, what's going to happen now coming into the day? All right. So I like to look at the breakage of swing points. It tells me a lot. And right now, I do see something that's kind of interesting. I see that we have broken this little high right there. And it looks like during the Globex session the market was kind of in a very tight range. It wasn't really going up, wasn't really going down. It didn't break that point, and it did close above it. Um, but it was just kind of meandering, in neither place. So once I have determined that, and I've determined like yesterday's low and high and yesterday's close level, the Globex low, and the Globex high is this little red line right over here. What I like to look at next is like the zones. And these are the APA zones that are plotted on here for us. Okay, and yes, it does make it very colorful. So let's just look at the most recent levels that are right around price at this time. I find this very interesting that prices bounced off of this level several times now, and it is brown. But look at this, it came within one tick of doing that, and now it's bouncing off of this brown zone. Okay, so to me, going back to the simple charts, okay, and I'm just going to use our some white space up above us, okay. Let me take off the zones and let's talk about context of what do we see happening here and what is price actually telling us, okay. Okay, so obviously we've been in a downtrend, right? And price has failed to make a new low, okay? So price has come back up here, and it's kind of slowly meandered, but it has made a slightly new high, all right? That's what we're looking at here. Now, the other interesting thing that I find by looking at where those zones were is it came right within like one tick of a previous brown zone, stopped and turned around, okay? So if that's happening to me, and I've seen several bounces off of this level, I'm beginning to think that, we're either going to have a small range up here and kind of go into a rectangle, if you remember that from the school, the APA Zones price action school, and continue on our drop to the downside. And if that doesn't happen immediately, then I would expect support to come in somewhere maybe like right around in that range, and for us to break up above this, okay? And when it does, hopefully maybe we'll get another little quick retracement and get on board here, okay? So that's my thoughts coming into this area, all right? Now obviously it's you could argue that it's a little bit of both, all right? Either it's going to be a major reversal area, which could be just because price has failed to really touch that brown zone that's one tick below, so it's basically finding supply and looking for a possible reversal. That is very, very possible, very probable, I should say. Or we are at an area of continuation, which would be nice for the trend, okay? Because the upward trender is down, price has been down over the past few days, that's okay too. But the fact that this thing stopped where it did, it's kind of like a level on top of a level type of deal, and it's like reaffirming because it's having such a hard time breaking this level. It's like kind of reaffirming that there's some support there. So obviously one of these two things are going to happen, but we'll see, okay? So coming into the open, we are at the open here, and we've had a couple inside candles. But the important thing that I think is very interesting is we've made a new high, okay, and we've broken that high. So here is the first line. Here's the second line being broken. So that's really interesting to me. If this thing doesn't turn around in dramatic fashion, then we're not here. This is not continuation to the downside, but we're actually here. All right, the long play would be in effect, but right now it's kind of hard to determine which one's going to happen. Okay, because and technically we're not in a zone per se. Okay, like this is just making fresh resistance areas that seem to get taken out. Okay, so let's see what happens on the next bar. Okay, boom, it pops up there and it breaks the Globex high. All right, so this little, I should reframe my picture here a little bit. Okay, this little level was actually up here if it was going to range back and forth. Okay, and looking at the actual zones, that is the yellow zone that represents that zone right there. Okay, so it doesn't look like it's gonna, or it looks like if we're gonna range, it's gonna be right around in here, but because it broke the Globex high as such, depending on how it broke the Globex high, and that's just what the overall, or since the Globex session has been put in place, and since yesterday's close was where it was, it seems like it's starting to stair step a little bit on this. So when the Globex high actually gets broken at the open, right down here, it gets broken. Excuse me, my mouse is getting a little weird. The Globex high gets broken. Now we have to decide, okay, we've seen a little bit of exhaustion come in here, and buyers are so strong that they weren't even like able to retest any type of support. It's just been boom, boom, boom. And something else that I would like to point out right now is looking at this chart, where do you see the big candles at? Where are the biggest candles right now? Which side? Are they red candles or are they green candles? And I know that sounds like a really simplistic question, but I'm looking for who is in control of this market. Is it the bulls or is it the bears? Okay. Well, what I see is this really big green candle. I see this really big green candle. Is it bigger than that red candle? Yeah. Yeah, like both of those big green candles. And then I see this really big green candle, okay? And we've just broken the Globex high. So when you break the Globex high, and I see another big green candle breaking the Globex high, I'm really starting to think bulls are in control of this market, okay? And they're in pretty strong control of it. So looking at a retest for the Globex high, which is right here after this green candle closes, is really what I would like to be getting on. Okay, so I basically, as far as context goes, we have the Globex high level. Actually, I'm just going to draw it on the chart. Okay, so we have the Globex high level. We have the breakage of the Globex high level. Prices moving through here, We have the breakage, and then I'm looking for the retracement back to the Globex level, and then I want to get on board right here and take it up, okay? And that's exactly what happened, but it happened in that one red candle, okay? All it took was one red candle. And coming into, and at the very beginning of the market, we saw another really good sized green candle right at the open. Like bulls affirm control of the market again. Boom, 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 boom. Big green candles, not as big red candles. So I'm really thinking now that this is what's happening. Okay, so how do we get into this? All right. That is the question. How do you get into the context of this? The continuation, where it's like coming down and chopping back and forth in the range inside the rectangle, that is outside it. Like, that doesn't exist anymore for me. Okay, this is all that exists as soon as that Globex high gets broken, because I know that from the Globex high point up to this next like 15-minute area, which is all that consolidation right over there, understanding consolidation, expansion is the key. All right, it tells us who's in control. All right, so coming into this like that, I know that I have free space all the way up to this 15-minute level. So getting on right here is really where I want to be getting on and looking for a target up here at 52. Now, personally speaking, I'm not trading right now just because of the holidays, but one of our traders was actually able to take this trade because this is what was playing out for us, and I'm super duper excited that he was able to participate in this move, but that's what was going on, and I think it was really cool that he was able to see that as well. But I think it's very, very important that we understand these basic ideas of the market moves in waves, okay? And then as it's moving in waves, look for it to spend a lot of time in consolidation, and we need to understand where we are in those waves, where we are in consolidation, so that we can capture the big trend moves when they do happen. And that's really what I wanted to focus on today. I know last time we spent a lot of time talking bar by bar analysis, but knowing that this thing is making new highs and we're not inside of a level here, and we're just making new highs kind of in blank space, really gave me an idea that things may be reversing even though the trend is down. Okay? Trend's down, but the market looks like it wants to go up, and the big bars help us tell that direction. There are no resistance. There are no like 15-minute levels. This stuff is just happening out in the middle of nowhere. Understanding where that little area of previous consolidation was, and looking at the expansion and how we're above any type of consolidation, and we're just making new highs slowly during the Globex, all led to the idea of the long idea. Okay, and so as soon as that Globex high gets taken out, being long down there would have been awesome. Hindsight's always 20/20, but getting long on the red candle is a little bit harder to do, because unless you look over here at our 15-minute level, and like 52 is where we're going to encounter some resistance, you don't have any idea where the resistance is going to come in on the smaller time frame, So this one's hard to jump onto just because I don't feel that you have a whole lot of risk to reward. Okay, so I'm just going to say straight up, like, this is difficult to jump onto that, because even though it's a breakout, a retracement, and then continuation, on this chart, it's hard to jump onto it because getting that really close entry down here is very, very tough. Okay, there's not enough space right there. Only if you're on like a very, very small tick chart could you have gotten in on this, or maybe a small range chart or something like that. But it's tough just doing bar by bar here on the 1-minute chart. But that's the idea. That's the idea of context that we're trying to really describe today. So after that happened, I'm going to be looking to the long until a very major area of resistance comes along. Okay, so at the first 15 minutes, how do we get long? Where do we look for the pullback? First 15 minutes is highlighted by this little green spot from the APA time indicator. This is a really pathetic pullback. It doesn't give you much space to get on board. So looking at how strong this move has been from the open all the way up here, this is a microtrend to me. Okay, that's what this means. Okay, all the pullbacks are very, very thin. Um, they're they're not pulling back to really a good level. This was the only one that I saw at the time. Um, and it's hard to jump into a microtrend because the pullbacks are so shallow. All right. So coming into the top of the hour, we actually did get a little bit of a pullback here, but it wasn't at an area of support. So this is hard to jump into, and so you'd have to wait until after this candle has plotted to want to get long again, and then your range area is basically something like up here, basically where those two big candles are. And like they're both the same size, so that's like 20 ticks of risk. So depending upon your risk tolerance and stuff, maybe that's too much, maybe that's normal, but where is truly support? We have to ask price to define support for us if we're going to get into the uptrend here. Okay, so I don't know that this area is support. It sure definitely could be support, but looking at the candles right now, it hasn't told me 100% that it's support. Okay, and the doji helps a little bit, but it's still not telling me a whole lot. And taking it to the upside is the way that I want to go, but I got to realize that my targets are like right up here at like 16, and this area hasn't confirmed itself at this point. So um, there's your first red candle since kind of, I don't know, like this area. So if I can get some smaller candles down in here, that would be pretty awesome. But who knows what will happen next. So that's a little bit of the idea of context that I wanted to talk about today. I also want to get into your guys' questions, because jumping into microtrends is tough, but if you know kind of your idea of context, I do think it's a little bit easier. I saw this as also a very aggressive opportunity. If you took the red bar, like one tick above the red bar, you could have pulled out a 1-to-1 ratio here. But this is extremely aggressive. And we usually bank on things not being this aggressive. But realizing as soon as this new high was put in on this bar, realizing that we're in something that's a micro trend, I think is very, very important, and actually, I started thinking that this was a micro trend right here, or the possibilities of a micro trend was happening right here, just because it gave you no risk to reward to jump onto this thing after it broke out of the Globex high and then retested the Globex high. There was no reward before you're retesting this breakout point. And a lot of times when that happens, that means you're into a strong momentum type of move. Okay, so I knew that there was definitely some momentum coming into this on this bar close. And then when I saw this bar come into place, that was, okay, we're really into a momentum. Where is the pullback going to happen from here? And as these candles progressed, this was the first red candle. This just happened to be inside this 15-minute zone, right? Because the zone goes, well, let's superimpose the 15-minute level over here. Well, at least I think it should superimpose it on. Hit apply. Oh, there's the box. So yes, this did happen inside the 15-minute level, but all that happened here was a doji and a red candle. Okay, so yes, the doji does represent exhaustion, and we, you know, 2 ticks below the doji. Um, if you're doing this, you're trying to pick the top. If you're playing off of this doji on this time frame, you're trying to pick the top, and you're trying to pick the top inside the middle of this 15-minute zone. Okay, and I don't like to do that. I don't like to stand in front of the bus and wonder, as big green candles are happening, is this going to be the top? Okay, that's not a good place to be doing something. So I would say that's a no trade for me personally to the downside. Okay, if you're still thinking that the trend is down, um, but getting into the long side, it's equally as tough because it's got to be a really aggressive entry to basically take it 1 tick outside or 1 tick above that red candle. Okay. So now some of the mentoree students were able to watch me line this up, but this is an extremely aggressive entry. Okay. It's very, very difficult to want to do that. But considering how strong this market's moving, it was possibly your only chance to get on board. And again, small stops on this one just because the trend is so strong. And if you're wrong on this micro trend being a micro trend or a really big momentum push, at least you're not out a whole lot. So anyway, just a couple thoughts about the micro trend that happened today. Obviously, price came all the way up here to yesterday's high. So just to give us some context, like this is really a high point, okay? And it's coming also up to the epitrender line. I'm just going to show current zones. The epitrender line it's intersecting that as well. We know that it's at a relatively high point here. Is anything really going to turn around? It's possible, but I want to let price action tell me what it's going to do. So I want to look, I like to use a 15-minute as my context chart. I'm a day trader. I don't need to really worry about what's going to happen in 5 days or what's going to happen tomorrow. All that I really care about is what's going to happen for the next 3 minutes or 5 minutes until I get my T1, that's what I care about, so 15 minutes, that's fine for me, personally speaking. And with the help of the software, we have a good idea that right above yesterday's high is a blue, which means that we've already had the money bounce off of this zone, which was right there. We have a blue level, which means it is weak, okay? So I wouldn't be surprised to see price push through this, okay? That's what that means to me.